This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Yes.
Really? Okay. Okay, wasn't sure we were live. Okay. I'm going to call to order the Board of the Southampton Select Board for May 24th at 6 p.m. Could we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance first, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Okay, very good. All right. So we have a few things on the agenda tonight. We'll see how good we get through a few of these, but I think we can manage. So we have any open time for the public? Yes.
Good evening, Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway, representing the Southampton Historical Society. Important dates to please remember. June 4th is the Clark Chapman Festival. All are welcomed. It's from 1 to 5. Ravenwood will be playing. We will have beer, wine, light refreshments, and lots of new things for you to see at the Clark Chapman House. July 4th, from 2 to 4, is the Ice Cream Social. And August 12th and 13th is Celebrate Southampton. We'll have the dinner to go, time stretchers on Friday, and on Saturday we have vendors, food trucks, ice cream truck, barnyard, bounce house, crafters, kids crafts, all kinds of stuff. So please come on out. We are doing the Citizens of the Year Award at that event too. So please come down. You are more than welcome to all of these events. You do not have to be an actual Historical Society member to attend, but our big one is going to be the Clark Chapman Festival, and we are able to do that with the help of the Mass Cultural Council. They have given, I wrote up a grant, and they fulfilled it. So,
Very good.
Hopefully.
Good. Have a good turnout.
All right. See you tomorrow. John, I want to talk to you at some point later this week about ice cream truck.
All right. Very good. Okay. And just one other thing, Lucy reminded me, and I just to put it out there as the announcement, of course, we have finally our Memorial Day Parade coming back again. It will be on Monday. The gathering is going to be taking place as of about 9 a.m. We're going to start off from Norris School. And I think, as far as I know, most all the select board, if everybody's going to plan to be there. I hear John may have his hot rod with him, but
Might be a couple there.
yeah, okay. A few of us will probably be walking down with the rest of the crowd that shows up, and it's going to go down to the Center Cemetery, where there's usually a ceremony where the flowers are laid on the graves of the veterans, and then there'll be a handoff later on. We'll keep on walking down, and there'll be the Lions Club, I believe, that's doing a dedication at the gazebo. And there's a variety of people that have already signed up. The scouts, the pageant winners, the antique car people, police, fire, highway, various people have signed up to join in on the parade. So please let yourselves be known. And if you really need to let us know what you're doing, you can call Lucy Dalton at the town clerk's office. And other than that, we will hope to see a bunch of people out on Monday morning for the parade. It's been a long time since we've done that. And if spring into Southampton is any indication, this past weekend, between the book sale at the library, the flea market, the plant sale over at Conant Park, the Trunks and Treasures and tag sale at the church, and I'm probably missing somebody. It was quite a crowd. So it was nice to see everybody out and about again. I think everybody's been ready to get out and sort of join in town activities again. So please keep informed and join us for whenever you can get out. All right. Any other open time for the public? All right. If not, since we've had our recent town election, it is time to do an election of the select board officers. It's usually done right after the town election, so I will open up nominations for, there's actually all of us, chair, vice chair, clerk, select board member to sign the warrants, and the alternate select board member to sign the warrants.
I'll make a motion to appoint Chris Fowles as chair.
I'll second.
Okay, I guess I get to say, any discussion?
Willing to accept? You've done a great job.
Okay. I will accept if voted in, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. I will tackle this for another year. All right, for vice chair.
I will make a motion to vote John Lumber as vice chair.
Okay, I have a second, please. I'll second it, if nobody did. Sorry, John Lumber said vice chair. Okay, second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Nominations for clerk.
I'll make a motion to appoint Joy as Piper's clerk.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Select board member to sign the warrants.
Make a motion to nominate Francine.
All right. Have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And then an alternate select board member to sign the warrants.
Make a motion to nominate Maureen.
All right.
I'll
Maureen?
second.
Okay, second. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Very good. Okay. So we have it. We are basically in place for the coming year.
So just procedural-wise, sometime in July or August, do we look at, do we maintain our liaisons or change?
Well, probably, yeah, we should do that. Probably, I'm going to suggest our,
Usually in June.
yeah, I was going to say at our next meeting, probably our June meeting. So before this, the new,
After the town vote.
yes, yeah, right. So probably the, whatever that is, June 21st, I think, is when we would meet. So that's when we would take a look at our liaison assignments and see if we want to keep some, switch them around. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, but we would need to formalize that again every year. Yeah, Reenie?
I just think it might be helpful, I know, Ed, you got your hands full right now with the town meeting, but I'm just wondering if we all might be able to email Ed what our current liaison assignments are when the committee meets, because I know it might not be, my experience is it's not always what it was initially. When we meet, what day of the week, what time of the day. And then, Ed, if you'd like, I'm happy to help. Just send me that information, and I'm happy to, have it available in some sort of a chart or something. Huh? Okay, good. All right, good.
Okay.
But
That's
if
good,
you
yeah.
could-
It's true, though. Not every committee meets on a regular schedule. I mean, there's some that meet very regularly every second Monday or whatever it is, or every 2 weeks, and others don't. So I think that probably is a good idea, just so that people can relook at that with their own schedules and see how it fits into their own personal lives. Okay, very good.
And it's always been a challenge when their meetings conflict.
Yeah,
So when committees schedule meetings, I'm not sure that they all can consult the master calendar to see
yeah.
when others. It
I know.
puts us kind of in a push-pull, and others too, not just for us.
Right. So we'll aim at putting that on the agenda for the June 21st meeting. And just a thanks for everybody for doing all of your assignments. It's been a busy year, and we've had a lot of reports back. So, okay, we have no public hearings, and we have actually 2 presentations, I believe, tonight. We'll start off with Board of Health first.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you for everything that all of you are doing to help keep our town moving.
Thank you.
I think I was here last year when we were going through the appointments, and it's amazing to think about what has happened in this past year. I believe I'm here this evening to just discuss how we're going to balance our budget for the remaining of the fiscal year. We had previously made a request for ARPA funding for an additional 3 hours for our health director, mostly due to the demand of the COVID-19 pandemic. But if that ARPA funding is not approved, there is still a way for us to cover all of our expenses through our existing budget categories. Last meeting, we informally voted that if the ARPA funding wasn't improved, that we would utilize the funds in the other accounts to cover those expenses. So Jerry has been working the additional 3 hours since the beginning of the fiscal year, which created a deficit, which was confirmed by Bradley which will result in a deficit of $1,752.31. There are some unutilized funds in the health agent account that will not be used through the end of the year. There's a residual balance in the Board of Health expense line for $932. Even with the June Sharps pickup, we estimate that there will be an additional $986 in the Sharps fund, and the health agent balance will be $1,713. So our balance is $3,631.64 with the deficit, and that deficit is with Jerry working 32 hours and not 35. That leaves a residual balance in the account of $1,879.33. And again, the payroll deductions were verified by Bradley because we had an account expense, but I wasn't exactly sure which payroll had been last deducted according to that report. So we estimate that even if Jerry was to work 35 hours through the end of the fiscal year, which would amount to about $712, that those expenses would still be covered within our budget. Do you have any questions?
So are you withdrawing the request? Do you not need the ARPA funds to cover this year's budget?
Honestly, I thought that request would have been approved, but this was our backup plan, so I guess we'll withdraw the request as long as we can cover it within our budget.
Well, just one question of clarification. You said that these are hours worked since the beginning of the fiscal year. Was it fiscal year or was it from January, calendar year?
This would have been calendar year because the first 6 months of the year were covered through CARES Act funding.
Right. So 6 months of January through June, anticipated through June.
Yes, and that amount.
This math figures out, right?
Yes, that overspend would have, resulted in the deficit of $1,752.31. And I'm hoping that Jerry will be able to continue working at the 35 hours. I just want to mention that there's 52 active cases of COVID in Southampton. In conversation with the Northampton Health Department, they actually estimate that we are capturing somewhere between 7 and 10% of cases. So we actually think that case numbers are substantially higher. And honestly, we don't anticipate that that's going to change over the next several months. Go ahead.
I have to be recognized by the chair, actually. So my preference would be that it was, funded through your department, similar to other departments. And I know that in this fiscal year that wages from the CARES Act has actually gone towards the Board of Health wage line. So there have been other funds that have actually been used that have covered that. I had a conversation recently with the Health Department director from Northampton who said that the case tracing that's currently being paid by ARPA would be covered by the collaborative agreement with Northampton, and also that some of the expenses that we've already paid out of ARPA, specifically the test kits as well as the clinic, actually would be covered through the end of June of this year through FEMA money. So I don't know if you or other people on the Board of Health might be able to check into that. That would be very helpful between now and the next meeting.
And this would be through FEMA?
FEMA for the clinic and COVID test supplies, and Northampton Health Department, the collaborative agreement that Southampton has with them to cover case tracing. And that was told
through
to me by
Sharon's contract?
Pardon?
Through Sharon's contract?
Well, right, case tracing is covered through the collaborative agreement that Southampton has with Northampton, and that was told to be by Meredith O'Leary.
So that would be for so when I spoke to the Northampton Health Department, they have 2 case tracers that cover all 20 towns. So that would be a separate, so you're saying that Sharon's MOU could be covered through this collaborative agreement.
That's what I was told.
It's a question, I guess, just to
I think it's
verify.
important to know going further, because right now the funding through ARPA for case tracing only goes until the end of June.
And yes, we spoke about that at our last meeting. I'll certainly look into, before our next meeting on June 7th, I'll look into whether or not those expenses could be covered. I will note that through the case tracing through the shared public health services, they only have 2 case tracers that are working to cover a very large geographic area, which has resulted in some challenges with covering that area. So it's something that we're trying to figure out what the best option is going forward.
But I would look back at the contract we have with Northampton, not necessarily what their availability of staffing is, because if the contract says that we're supposed to be getting this, they got funds to do certain shared services. And so I would look back at the contract and see, I've never seen a copy of the contract for the shared service. I would see if it covers case tracing.
It does not currently.
They have to hire somebody. Maybe they could hire Sharon, but then the funds wouldn't have to come from ARPA.
So it does not currently cover contact tracing. Our current agreement doesn't, but that's something that the board is looking at the next meeting to figure out how we're going to move forward and if that contract would need to be revised.
Okay, maybe going forward, it could be.
Because I was told by the director that it was, so I just think it might be worth checking.
Yeah, we could check, but I think, we'd already made that decision several months ago on the ARPA.
Right.
For the
it's not going to be reversed, but if there's going to be another request for further money from ARPA, I'd like to know.
Right, okay. Yeah, questions? So, John, go ahead, sorry.
So on this, in the current year that we're in right now, the position was budgeted 32 hours. I looked at 35 hours early on, but in January, up until December, that additional hours was covered under CARES money.
Correct.
That went away, and then January 1st, it remained at 35 for all valid reasons, right? And up to this point. But the shortfall, the 3-hour difference wages, I guess, what I think you're saying is there are funds within your budget to cover it the last 5 weeks of the year.
Yes.
Would that put her at 32 for the remainder of the year, or could she go to 35 for the remainder of the year, or you didn't get that far?
There is in the remaining balance $1,879.33, which should cover the hours at 35 hours.
It would, as far as what you can see for the remaining 5 weeks of the year, you would be fine with covering it with that?
Yeah, we would have to transfer money between accounts, but I think it would be manageable. And you can check my math, Ed, because I just don't want to screw it up, but I believe,
That's great.
Finish out the year with the balanced budget.
yes. The other thing I just want to acknowledge is, I know we have a budget request on the table to increase our hours to 35. I'm not sure when that decision, will move forward, but I do anticipate that there will be an ongoing need for those hours regardless of what budget is approved. And so I anticipate that if that budget is not approved, the Board of Health has discussed making an additional request for those hours for at least the next 6 months, potentially the next, calendar year, depending on the pandemic conditions. I kind of feel like we'd be kicking the can down the road a little bit, but.
I think we had gotten a letter from, I think you
Yes, we
submitted
wrote
a letter relative to that, but there wasn't or maybe there was, I don't remember if there was a budget attached, but it was estimated, wasn't it like $4,000 or something?
Oh, the dollar amount?
It was around
It was an ARPA
4,000.
request, right?
The budget we sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
The budget we voted on has the 32 hours funded. The other 3 hours are, I thought, possibly going to be discussed tonight, and using ARPA as the source, and that request for next year.
And I think,
And we broke it into 2 separate issues, the current year and then...
yes.
Yeah, at this point in time, I don't think I was planning on doing any more voting on ARPA money tonight. I mean, we wanted to hear, we had the questions on 2 or 3 of the ARPA applications, and we were going to pick them back up again, I think, on the 21st.
I think it's reasonable to say that the burden on the health department related to the pandemic is not going to decrease in the foreseeable future, especially if we decide to move contact tracing outside of Southampton. I think that's actually going to put a little bit more onus, especially in the beginning of the school year, on the health department. So, I mean, I'm happy to collect any information that you might want to support that.
That was my request, is because there's no town of our size that has a full-time health director. I mean, we're a town of 6,200 people. I would request that the Board of Health look into the distribution of work in the health department itself. And just so you know, the letter that we got relative to all of this says that back in 1970s, when the gas, whatever, I was on the Board of Health for about 5 years, and we never had a health director. We had an administrative assistant in the office, and we had a full-time health agent who did all the inspections and went to all the DPH meetings and so forth. So, I mean, I think that the Board of Health should be looking into a regional agreement where there's a health director that handles regional, staying up on DPH regulations and such, and a health agent that carries out the work. So I would just request that there be a comparison between like towns of staffing before there's a request to go to up on staffing. That's just my request. We have a collaborative agreement that's supposed to help with nursing care and so forth. The second request I would just have of the health department is Board of Health is to consider having a regular time to meet.
Yes, we've really tried to do that. It's just really challenging with each of our occupations and a rotating schedule for Kate. So we've tried to settle on a specific time, but it really just has not worked due to Kate's working schedule. Just in response to your first question about the working hours, the shared public health agreement, or the agreement we have with Northampton, will only account for staffing for like fill-ins for vacation. They don't provide regular staffing for the health department, and we have looked for other funding sources, like a grant to look at the overall structure of our department to see if there's better ways to do things. We've looked into joining the Foothills District, but then the pandemic happened, and there was no way that any health departments were going to be look at merging more health departments when everybody has been completely inundated. And the state decided, instead of focusing on more shared resources outside of the existing grant that we're already a part of, there's no more funding to look at things like that right now. I do anticipate that that's going to change in the future, but I'm sure that every health department is very highly focused on the pandemic. I'll just also add that, in terms of looking at the health department's overall responsibilities, I do agree that there's a large amount of clerical and administrative duties that can be carried out by potentially another person, but that would require additional structural changes within the health department, maybe within the building inspector. And so I think it's more than just a discussion within the Board of Health. I think it needs to be a broader discussion about how we would address those things in town hall. Because we as the Board of Health can't appoint another position for an administrative person to answer the phones. Huge amount of time, Jerry's time is spent answering the phones. And I'll also say that a huge amount of Nicole's time is spent being flexible and dealing with a lot of requests directly that really actually should be funneled through the Board of Health that are not currently. And so I just want to say that I feel like our flexibility is actually making it even harder to determine what level of administrative support the Board of Health needs. And, thinking about sustainability, I would be concerned, like if, say, Nicole was to leave or something like that we would actually be in trouble, because all of that correspondence would then be funneled through the Board of Health. And we have essentially one person in the office, which is being managed in 4 days. And so I think the challenge with comparing from town to town, there's a huge discrepancy in not only wage, but also structure of the town hall. I've looked at tons of towns that have a size of 6,000, and all of them are very different.
Yeah, I think that nobody has a full-time health director. That's important to note. And if all this administrative, you need someone in the office to have all the plans come in. There's a lot that's being done by the two of them that are administrative, and I just think that the work can be looked at differently. And the Board of Health has total jurisdiction over the employees of the health department. The Select Board has jurisdiction over the funding. So I don't think it has to be a town hall decision about what the work of the office is and how it's best carried out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further comments? I think what we want to do tonight is just, I think the points have been made for them. I think what we're understanding is that the earlier request for the January to March, and therefore March to June ARPA money for the 3 extra hours is not needed, is what I'm hearing, right? And that has been withdrawn at this point in time. You will cover it out of your existing budget. And then what we have before us still, which we will pick up on the 21st, is my thought, is the future request for the extra 3 hours.
I just have one question. By utilizing the other funds in this year's budget to cover that potential deficit, would anything be defrayed into next year and have to be picked up next year, so now next year's budget is inadequate?
I asked Jerry that question, well, similar question, maybe not those exact words, but we're not deferring any Sharps pickups, and she has the office supplies that she needs for this year, including toner, supplies for printing, so she does not need any other supplies. I mean, for June 30th is right around the corner, it's only a month away, and so we don't anticipate that there's going to be other costs in between now and then.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I just want to just say one more thing about, John, you had made a statement about a state-funded or grant-funded Sharps program, and I looked into that a little bit. That's for, the funding that I could find that would be subsidized by the state is for a needle exchange program and not a Sharps return program. Because, of course, I'm always looking for state or federally funded money. So the only funding currently that I could find would be to start up a needle exchange program where we would actually provide people clean needles and they could return their used needles. And so I'm not sure if that's something that would benefit the town, but if it's something that people feel would be helpful, we can certainly look into that further.
Okay.
I do believe there is a funding source for the Sharps program.
You can help me find it. That would be great.
Well, I will, because I think that in our search to go look at other senior centers, I think there's one that we went to that actually manages the SHARP program through the senior center, and it's 100% that there's no, the town doesn't have to pay for it. I will look into that, though. We went to South Hadley, Irving, Long Meadow, and Holyoke. So I will ask Janet Kane, the chair, and I'm pretty sure.
The one in Holyoke was a needle exchange program.
That would make sense, though.
Can I ask something? So the application that I'm looking at is for the funding to, for this fiscal year.
Right.
There isn't an actual application for the future request. You did write a letter.
There was a letter for it.
requesting that funding, but there is no application.
So we had made the budget request for our budget to be 35 hours, and if that is declined, then we will have to, make a request for the extra hours.
Okay, I just want to be clear that this,
That made
so
of
this
the Finance
application.
Committee?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
This application is being withdrawn, and we're waiting for another application. That's
Because
going
we
to
put
be.
in, I believe in the budget, we did put in the 32 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Francine?
No, yes, I believe it was 32.
Okay.
Yes.
Did that go by the Finance Committee, the request?
We met with the Finance Committee.
It wasn't your second.
Oh,
second
okay,
version
okay.
of the budget.
Yeah.
Anticipating the forthcoming application, if you went from 32 to 35, what would the work week look like?
I think that's a really hard question to answer, especially because there's so many unforeseen work demands caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, as Maureen mentioned, it's the benefit of regionalization because you have to keep up on DPH briefings. We are regularly still consulting with the school and the school nurses anytime that there's any sort of cluster cases. I mean, there's plenty of work to be done because of the pandemic, and I can't exactly say what that's going to look like, but I think that it's reasonable to say that Jerry has spent 3 hours of her week for the past fiscal year working on pandemic-related duties.
Well, and I get, because I don't go down to the level, well, I don't even know. As chair of the Board of Health, are you signing off on timesheets?
No.
Okay, so I'm not either. I don't know, so I don't know now if all that work's being done Monday through Thursday at 32 or 35 hours, or if there are weekends involved and Fridays involved. And I don't need the answer now, but
I'll shoot you an email
on the road.
about, how we discussed that with Jerry. And, I mean, it does include weekend and evening responsibilities, and she's also expected to be available 24/7.
But she's hourly, not salary.
She is hourly.
Has that been looked at all? She's the only department head that's actually hourly right now.
I have spoken about that with a couple of people, and we have discussed this as the board, and we said that we would not consider making her a salaried employee at 32 hours.
It's not your choice. There are certain rules and regulations that fit into it.
Okay, well then that answers your question.
So that may be something to further investigate. I don't think we're going to take that up tonight.
Right.
Okay? So just so you know, there are certain rules and regulations that have to be abided by.
And I would love to learn more about them.
Yeah, Ed can fill you in on those.
Great.
Okay, any other questions on this? I think so. I think we understand.
Yeah, thanks for this.
To summarize this, thanks for this. This is helpful. I think, as with other departments that manage to shift around monies at the end of the year if they need to balance their budget, I think we appreciate Board of Health also doing the same thing, and you just have to put in a line item transfer, I assume, is what has to happen. Yeah, so, yeah.
And we can do that. We kind of anticipated discussing that at our upcoming meeting on June 7th and coming up with an actual dollar figure vote for that.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
What time is the meeting?
It's the hour before the town meeting, so 6 maybe?
5 o'clock.
I think it's at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, we have a meeting at the same time, so that's what makes it difficult.
Yeah.
It was the same, I believe it was 6 o'clock, because I checked the calendar. Let me just double check quickly.
Okay. All right, so thanks for that, though, and thanks for your coming tonight and presenting all these figures and answering some questions. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
It's not posted yet on the calendar, but I believe it was 6 o'clock.
Yes, I'm sure it is. If the town meeting's at 7, it's at 6.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, we have a second presentation, and
I will excuse myself.
Joy is going to recuse herself. Thank you very much. And Mr. Rizos, would you like to come up, please?
Do you have any paperwork or no?
Just introduce yourself and
Yes.
address.
Hi, my name is Efthymios Rizos, and I live here in Southampton over 25 years. All my kids went through Norris, Hampshire Regional. Joy is my daughter. And the reason I'm here tonight, I'm for Mikel Coffee. I'll tell you a couple of words about Mikel. Mikel is one from my hometown in Greece, franchise, has over 300 stores all over the world. And the Mikel Southampton is the first in America. My hometown in Greece is town like, the name is Larissa, next to Mount Olympus. It's town like Springfield, 200,000 people, but it's the capital of the world for coffee shops. We have over 2,000 coffee shops. So every 100 people, one coffee shop. So I had a dream, because I've been to the rest of business all these years, to open one of the best coffee shop and spend a lot of money. A lot of people that were coming in Southampton say this belongs to Boston or New York. You are in the wrong place. I say Southampton deserves the best, and I live here and should have the best. Unfortunately, all of us we know in March 2020 we had the coronavirus. We got shut down. I gave you some papers, shows the numbers, how the sales got dropped. The restaurants, all of them, they're suffering hard. Mikel, the same position, suffer. So a couple of months ago, Miss Maureen Groden stopped by Mikel to give me some test COVID, and she told me about do you know about the Arpa funds? In Holyoke, they gave some money to the hairdresser. I said, what is that? Because especially all the people, the rest of it, not just me, all of us were in big ocean, and somebody threw us, and we tried to get any life jacket to survive, to stay alive, so we can serve our customers. Said, did you hear? No, I say. So as soon as she told me the ARPA funds, the town has developed funds for small business. If they're suffering financially, you can apply, and maybe we can help you. Okay, thank you very much. And I went to the website. I saw what was the application and download. And I went after I brought to the town administrator. And I filled up almost a couple months ago, because from what I heard, it was first base. If the funds disappear, not going to be any more money. So I came as soon as possible. I put. So that is the reason I'm here tonight, to request for you to help me I put the request for $25,000. It doesn't how you say, it's just life jacket to survive a little longer, maybe fix a little outside the Mikel. I was thinking to buy a couple of screens to digitize. All the Mikels had digitized with a screen and have the digital menu, maybe buy a couple of equipments and help me to survive.
Okay.
That's the reason I'm here tonight.
Good. Well, I know we had seen this ARPA application last time we met, so it was one of the ones that we had seen. And I think people had a few questions at the time, if everybody remembers what their questions might have been. One, I guess, that was there was whether or not, I think the small businesses in general, I totally agree with you, have been hit very hard during COVID. I mean, we've all seen the number of small businesses around the surrounding area that, you know, some managed to hang on through takeout, others have had to close, and it's certainly been a very hard-hit industry. At one point in time, there were some funds available, some small business, either grant or grant loan funds, I think they were called, actually the PPE funds, if I'm not mistaken. And I think one of our questions was whether you had actually applied and gotten any funding from others earlier on in the
I got PPP loan, no loan. The PPP was for the payroll. I got about $15,000, and I got EIDL, that is a loan for over 30 years, $65,000. And I got a grant from Northampton, and that was helpful, let me survive a little longer. And but it's a drop in the bucket, how you say. I have loans because it cost me over $500,000. I have a loans. I tried to, if I can, how you say, maybe I need a little more hours or to hire somebody else, because from the time another situation, from the time when coronavirus happened, I lost all my employees. Nobody wanted to work, we closed down. I had the drive-through, I had to close down.
Right.
So I just stay, and I work for myself for 2.5 years now, every day. In the beginning was 7 days, now I cut it down because I will die myself working. And
So how many employees do you have now?
right now, just me.
Just you? Okay.
Just me, open, close.
So with this,
It's very hard.
with the request for ARPA funds, if it were to be approved, what will that allow you to do? Would you look at
Yes, I'm going to look to
hiring other people?
extend my hours, so I can have another person. Right now, I open 6 to 2, Tuesday through Saturday.
That's what you are now?
Right now, I start closing Monday a year ago, and this year I start closing Saturdays because I say I need to spend time with my family. I'm going to the church on Sunday mornings. So, but in order to have somebody to open Sunday or to extend instead of 2 or close 4 or 5 o'clock, I need another person.
Okay. Other questions? No? Minnie?
I just had a question a little bit to the side of this, and you would probably know, Chris. I know I went around, just so people know, up and down Route 10 and to distribute test kits because we didn't want them to expire. And so when there was a shop owner, I let them know that the survey that had come back asked about supporting small businesses, and that if they've had a loss and don't have any other way. Was that something that, do you remember? I'm just looking on the website. The results of that survey aren't really posted, are they?
They are. They're on there.
On the whole?
There were very few of the small. I'm thinking we had maybe think about that. We had maybe 8 to 12 small businesses that actually responded.
Okay.
I think to the survey, and then some of the responses didn't correlate. Right, there was something that I wasn't very confident in the responses from that. I was trying to isolate the responses from the small business sector.
Okay.
And they didn't line up correctly with some of the other answers that made any sense. So we had a few responded, but not as many as I would have hoped that did respond to the survey. But yeah. So that's fine. But,
Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, if no other questions, thank you for coming. What we'll end up doing probably is meeting again on the 21st of June will be our next meeting. And we'll probably pick up other ARPA applications at the time. The deadline for applying is June 1st, and so we were waiting for other ones to come in And then we'll look at them one more time before the end of the month. So yours will be in the package with everybody else's, and we'll let you know at that time, okay?
Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming and explaining your situation. Appreciate it. All right. Good.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Quarterly reports. I don't believe we have any. Oh, we'll have June. Whoop, we lost Joy. We lost everybody. Okay, quarterly reports.
Just asking, just so you know,
Yeah.
I was asking like in the order of priority of the responses. Number one was broadband, number two was premium pay. I'm on the website. Well, actually, you know what? I came out of it.
Yeah.
I was just wondering where did small business support come in?
If you just Google.
Priority order?
Yeah.
If you just Google ARPA survey in the search button there, so just put ARPA survey and see if it's up there. Thanks, Joy. Welcome back. All righty. I don't remember where they landed in there.
Okay, there you go.
I want to say toward the middle. I'm in middle toward the lower half, but I'm not positive on that. Okay. All right. Thank you for that, and welcome back, Joy. Thank you for
Anytime.
Thank you for recusing yourself. All right. No quarterly reports. Ed, how about a town administrator report?
Just got a couple of items. Would like to let you all know that at last night's Public Safety Building Committee meeting, that Jim LaBrie came in and asked to be placed on a future Public Safety Building Committee meeting that he and his brother Eugene would like to do a presentation to them in regards to the property they own on College Highway. The Public Safety Committee had reached out to myself asking if that would be appropriate or not for them to do a presentation to the Public Safety Building Committee, or should it be done to the Select Board, or should it be done to both? And I did talk with the chair last evening, so my understanding is the plan will be for the LaBries to address the Public Safety Building Committee at their next meeting, and probably the Select Board at their next meeting, but not the 7th, but the 21st.
Well, just a slight variation on that. So they would go to the Public Safety Building Committee meeting, yes, and do whatever they need to do. But I think we want to follow the procedures that we laid out in the charge for the committee, so that at that time and after the 21st or whenever, if the Public Safety Building Committee has done all their due diligence and this is a recommendation they have, then they would come to us with their recommendations first. It wouldn't be, I don't want to start entertaining people coming in off the street saying, hey, I want to talk to you about land and public safety building. I mean, I think we charged the committee with one particular thing, which was to investigate town-owned properties and, failing that, other properties in town, and come to us with, I think, at least 2 recommendations, if I'm not remembering that correctly. So I would like to hear from public safety for complex people first before anybody comes to the select board. I mean, I think they surely should go to public safety and present their thoughts to the public safety committee. That's my interpretation of the charge, anyways. I remember it. Is anybody else?
Based on their recommendation that it would be moved forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's the public safety's committee's recommendation to the select board that we would want to act on, but we need to have, I want to be sure that they've done all their due diligence on what they're looking at and how they're deciding what criteria they're even looking at to make a recommendation to us. But they were supposed to come to us with their top 2 or 3 ideas anyway for possible land, and then we'd talk about the next steps from there, as far as I know. So,
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, so yes, I mean, I think the LaBrie should go to the public safety meeting whenever that next one is, but then I would wait for public safety to come to us first, not a joint meeting.
And then the public safety had another question in regards to that, and that was through the charge, is it actually split, and should they come back to the select board with a recommendation just on town-owned property first, and then a separate recommendation after that on, shall we say, privately owned property, or should they bring everything back at once?
The charge says 1 to 2 properties, priority of town-owned land.
Okay. Thanks for that. So I think priority was town-owned land. I guess, I don't know, if failing to identify any town-owned land, they've moved to the next step of identifying potential private land? I don't know how it's working. I'm not sure how the process has been going.
I was out of town, and so I did not go to the meeting yesterday, but they have a list of town properties. They removed 2, I believe, yesterday, and I think there are 2 that remain of town-owned land. And then they also have, I think, 3 or 4 privately owned land, and they have a online document that they're putting in frontage and wetlands and a number of criteria, and I think that the plan will be to whittle it down and see what's left. And I think there's, maybe 6 properties left.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that about right?
I would say so,
Yeah.
So then they would vote on those and then come to us
Yeah, and I
with-
think there might be further reductions at the next meeting before
Yeah.
they meet with the select board on the 21st. But, there are other privately owned lands on the list, and I just want to make sure that everything's considered openly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think any land that's out there, I think, is open for discussion, for sure, and should have the same review and criteria applied to it as anything else. John?
Well, just a couple things. So in this particular, in all honesty, I haven't really been following the public safety complex. I've left that in Maureen's hands. But no letters went out, right?
No letters.
Right, so this is
No letters.
solicitor approach.
Right.
And then, yeah, so the only thing that I would add about town-owned property is, I believe I stated it then, I know I stated it then, and if it doesn't come in this way, I'll state it again. But any town-owned property that gets dismissed from the list, I would like to see an explanation as to why.
Why?
Just not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's the reason,
Yeah.
what's the logic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, what was their thought process to it? In this case, where you have a private citizen coming forward, and this may trigger other private citizens to come forward,
Yeah.
great.
Right.
Throw it in the mix and go through the process.
Yeah, but I think that the important thing is, yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that's good to hear that there is some level of a screening or process that they're going through in terms of applying criteria to whatever they're looking at. I mean, I think we're saying the same thing of how did you get to that decision? I mean, I agree. We need to understand
One of
that.
your questions is, should they just do town property, then come in and then go out for private?
That was their question to Ed. I mean,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I kind of see it as, this is an all, do it all at once. Let they come in, I mean, unless you find this time.
That's the way I kind of think of it too, because, just theoretically, if you came back with 2 town-owned properties that were favorable and then didn't move on, and one of the private-owned properties, and I'm just going to say this, what if the town-owned properties were doable, accessible, but maybe on a scale of 1 to 10 came in at 7 or 8, and you had a private property that might come in at 10 or whatever. And then you get into a value-related question. But, in the back of my mind, I was thinking that, and they've been very thorough, but I was thinking that it would be better off if they came in with
Well, I think,
both combined with the recommendations. But they've been very thorough. They put criteria through with them.
Yeah.
They have the rationale and the reasons why something has scored at the top of the list or basically at the bottom and has been dropped off.
yeah. I mean,
This particular person came in as an open time for the public, I understand. So I'll just reiterate what I've said all along, that we wanted to diversify the committee because I think public trust is essential. The committee's been in place for 20 years. If we do things the same way we've always done it, we'll never have a public safety complex. That we want to make sure that we have open dialogue and that we consider all available lands and keep an open agenda. And I think that this committee has done a great job, so far. Sarah, Stein, who's the chair, is doing a great job. And she's putting everything up in a Google Doc, and all of that, John, will be explained, and I agree. I think it's important to follow the process that
I think that would be, a presentation that they would give us. I'd like to see what their comments and so forth is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't recall, it seems to me that the charge, I think it had said priority to town-owned land, because that was what we were thinking, right?
Right,
So
right.
I don't know that we spoke on private land in that charge. I don't remember that we did.
Well, it just said priority, 1 or 2 properties prior to town-owned, but I think, John, I think your answers will be forthcoming in terms of, for example, there were properties on Riverdale, it was investigated, they're very wet. There's properties here, and there was a reason why, and all of that will be shared.
Okay, that's good. All right, so I think the main thing is for them to get through their process and, do their voting and their conclusions as to what they want to recommend, and then
And I will let them
come to us with a,
I will let them know.
yeah, come to us with a schedule.
Okay.
Okay.
And
sounds
then
good.
just the second thing, just to let you know that Gilliher will be back out on Route 10 tomorrow doing some of the punch lists for the sidewalk project.
Okay.
There, they have to make some alterations to one of the driveways for party patrol. They'll also be adding some gravel to this interior cemetery road by the fence, and also doing some, there was a grading work right there on that road and on the ground up to the fence.
Right, and I know you'd reached out a little bit to the DOT people, or the designer engineer, to say what they were talking about in terms of a guardrail, and save moving the sidewalk too much, or not yet?
Well, they reminded me, and they follow the emails very well and what have you, and they picked up on the fact that, okay, at the last meeting, it seemed to be more concerned with a young child that might be somewhat unstable on a bike falling out into the road. So they reminded me that the interior of a guardrail is very sharp. So it has morphed into a guardrail and an interior fence now to protect that child from the guardrail, which is going to require more room. So they are working on that, and I will keep the board apprised.
Time to redesign
The
guardrails.
bicycle thing, when we just put a sign up says you have to walk your bike around this curve.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting ridiculous.
Well, lesson learned, let's see, November, August, probably about 8 months ago, when we were going down this route, I took a look at that project and said, okay, really didn't want to take on either the cost to move a telephone pole or a public hearing to take down a old tree in a historic district. In hindsight, I'd take on that public hearing to try to take down the tree.
Well, that might have been a preclusion on the grant, too. You never know. Some grants don't allow you to do those kinds of things.
Exactly.
So I don't know about that. But, I mean, I'm hoping they can come up with a sensible solution. I mean, to have not only guardrails, but yet another fence in there. I mean, my gosh. I don't see how there's going to be any room for both of them, let alone a sidewalk. So that's even more confusing to me. But, okay, Rini, last one.
Ed, can I just ask, as the representative or liaison from Public Safety Building Committee, if you're going to respond back to the committee that you talked to the chair?
That's who I'm
Okay, good. Thank you.
would be dealing with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else from Town Administrator report?
No.
Nothing else? Okay. How about a few Select Board reports? Anything offhand? Joy, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I wasn't able to go to the Conservation Commission because the Concom and Housing Authority have been meeting at the same time for the past couple months, but that will be changing now that I'm on Housing Authority. But my understanding is their next meeting is June 6th, and we're working on the Arpa application, and they're going to be reviewing for the consultant. But the chair was very happy to hear about the grant for I think it was $19,000 for the consultant. Housing Authority, their housing production plan should be approved soon by the state, and we should be hearing back from them soon. Their next meeting is also June 6th, but I'm not going to be in town for either, so that's fine. There's some updates with the Housing Trust, which I'll present to the board later on in the agenda. They're waiting for the vote for the CPA funding to approve the property at town meeting. And planning board, I was not able to go to their meeting, their last meeting, which was during our meeting last week. They're meeting next week, June 1st, and the chair is working on his ARPA application, and that the board should be receiving that soon. Open Space met last Thursday. They just discussed the Hendrick donation that's happening, I believe, this Thursday.
Yes,
The ribbon
yes.
cutting, yes.
Right.
And parking for Great Mountain Trail is still an issue, and so they were discussing that, and the ARPA funding potentially application for the garden, the pollinator garden, which is still in the works. And I'm not sure when their next meeting is, later June, I believe.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, thanks. All right, Brittany, anything?
CPC doesn't have a meeting planned. The Council on Aging will meet the first Wednesday of June at 4 o'clock, so they haven't met recently. The Senior Center Feasibility Committee is on a bit of a parallel track with the Public Safety Building Committee, and are also looking at lands with the goal of having a request for quotes to be, or feasibility study request by the end of June. And Board of Assessors met yesterday, and I was away, but what April passed along was that there is going to be a request for a line item transfer before the end of the year, because the principal assessor line has to cover for the consultant, the vendor lines, the administrative assessor, and so we'll be probably seeing that soon. And let's see, BI, I think that pretty much covers it.
That's it for now. It sounds good. All right, Francine.
Okay, quickly, the Bylaw Committee met on May 9th, began the process of verifying the information that E-Code 360 has posted for us as a draft manuscript, as a working document, making certain that the questions that they pose to us about how it looks, about the information, and about how things are stated, that we're in agreement with the work that they've done so far. It's not available yet to the public. So out of 183 questions that they posed to us, we've worked through about 30 of them. We're meeting again tomorrow, and we'll finish the balance. I don't think we'll finish the balance tomorrow, but I expect to make pretty good headway. So the meeting tomorrow is at 10 o'clock right upstairs. The school committee met minutes before this meeting, and so I'm going to let John report that, since he is chair of the North School Committee when he gives his report. The Zoning Board of Appeals is scheduled to meet on May 31st on Coffee and Caitlin Way, and the Board of Health, as you heard, will be meeting right ahead of the annual town meeting on June 7th. That's it.
Okay, John.
So PPP met last week, and all their activities will come up later on in our agenda. And then we have, so we have that. The only other committee I have to report on is, as Francine said, is that the local school committee held an emergency meeting today at 5:30. The sole subject of the topic was busing negotiations or contract. Bobby Jones reported back to all 5 school committees that she had negotiated from a 20% increase in year 1 to a 10% increase year 1 to 5% in years 2 and 3, an optional year 4 and 5, each at 4%. Fuel to be locked at $4.75, and diesel at $5.50. Any price fluctuations greater than $1 of that, $5.75 for fuel or $6.50 for diesel, would be an immediate pass-through 30 days later to the individual committees. So I got the terms last night as chair of the committee, realizing that the way Southampton does that particular line item, it's not a school committee budget line item, transportation. And on this side of the table, we only budgeted 5%. And knowing that we weren't going to be able to meet prior to having to have this meet, because the contract expires on June 30th, and that would be the end of it, the result would be no school busing next year for the North schools. I did email the town administrator and the chair, shared with them the terms, asked for thoughts and input. The town administrator got back to me, believing that based on what he was reading out of Mrs. Jones' email, and I'll paraphrase, that he thought that this was an appropriate settlement given everything that's going on right now. Our impact to our budget, without any adjustments in fuel, is just over $12,000. So of the 10% increase, we have $5,000 already built in. Hampshire Regional as a whole is $62,000 impact, but because that budget's already been passed, they have to find it within their funds this year. So next year, we can anticipate that shift coming back down to us, which, as you know, will be 52% of that number. So we ended up, all committees took it up separately. The Southampton committee had 4 out of 5 members present, and we agreed to accept the conditions and voted in favor of the contract.
Okay. And we will end up, we don't have that in our current budget
Correct.
proposal.
The administrator had suggested that we look at an STA as things go on. By that time, we'll have a few months of fuel pricing and see what we need to do.
See what the actuality is in terms of the real cost of fuel in particular.
Right, in worst case, go to stabilization or operation stabilization because this is a unique one-time event.
Right.
Did I paraphrase that accurately?
Extremely.
You mean at a special town meeting?
Special town meeting, yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they don't give us a chance to actually see how that is shaking out, if the fuel price is taking it higher than the $12,000 or not, and we'll also be able to compare it to, some other pieces that actually sit in our budget, like vocational transportation, or vocational tuition. Or what have you, might be able to transfer from there. One piece of money on that, but there's like say, operational stabilization or free cash is certified. Either one of those two would be an option at a special town meeting to adjust that.
Yep.
We did ask them that, okay, if it falls, if you're setting the price at $4.75 for gas, if it falls below $3.75 $1 south, would we then get the credit? And they wouldn't move on that. That was it. So there is sentiment from not just the Southampton committee, but in tonight's meeting, which was a public meeting, which was taped, that anybody can see, the chair, Chesterfield Goshen, as well as previously a member of the Hampshire Regional School Committee, now want to use the next 3 years of the contract to determine whether or not we should still be outsourcing busing as a whole. So that would be a 3-year project to look at.
Okay. So right now, this would commit us to 3 years with 2 years as an option, option for 4 and 5.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thanks for that update. I think that's probably the best we can do under the circumstances. Busing, we knew this was going to be an issue coming up, so I'm sure.
It's unfortunate that they weren't, I mean, if they go up, I mean, they can go up, but they can't go down. I mean, we're in a very unfortunate place right now. I can't imagine we're going to be here for the next 3 years.
Right, I mean, you'd think at some point fuel's going to get back over $2, maybe.
Yeah.
One would hope. One would hope. Yeah, okay. All right, thanks. Just one little thing on the grant committee. I just put in your packets just a sheet of where we are with grants. I think someone had asked me at some previous meeting about what we had in the hopper here, and there are basically 5 proposals before various grant programs totaling about $1,600,000. A fair amount of that is for Greenway related to design and permitting engineering. There's an update of the hazard mitigation plan, also waiting to be decided hopefully within the next month or two. And then the townwide culvert assessment, which was put forth under the MVP action program. So hopefully some of those will start to come through, and that's not counting what other departments are doing, from police, fire, others are doing their own grant applications for some of the ones that normally cross their desk. So we're still working at it, but we don't have any new answers and new monies yet. But hopefully, with all that out there, something will land on our doorstep. We're hoping.
Maybe a couple new things.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Are there any dates that we can anticipate the announcement?
Well, most of them are around July, has been my experience. So I'd say July and August is really our time frame for most of these. Yeah, maybe something in June. The hazard mitigation one has been out there since January, so that one might come in a little earlier, but pretty much, I'm going to say early July would be my expectation anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Maybe a good way to start the new year, never know, new fiscal year. Okay, good. So that's it for reports. Let's move on to,
For the chair,
I'm sorry, yes.
might I suggest the select board consider moving to the end of new business of any other business that can wait, as the PRS and the PCFs weren't in the agendas, but I know we have a police chief here that is anxious to
Okay.
take those up.
And this is under any other business? Is that where you want to put them?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty, so yes.
And these PRS and PCFs were approved at that PCB meeting that week.
Okay. Yeah, so,
Thursday.
John, you want to take those and,
I think we probably take the PRF up first as it's in order in our package for the police officer. So this is a PRF for request of place. The reason for the requisition is the resignation of the full-time police officer. The resignation is effective on July 1st. With the unique situation here with this, there's also a letter of the subject line is PRF for full-time police officer. The requested through the union agreed to allow for a range on the salary based on the experience of the person that they apply, whoever that may be. If hypothetically they're coming 5 years, last 5 years at a neighboring department or somewhere in the Commonwealth, and are certified, they could come in as if they were a 5-year employee. You have latitude within the range versus you have to start on step one. And there's a letter explaining that. I don't know if we need to do that in the record. But the other unique situation, so PPB approved this, also knowing the ongoing situation over at the police department. I think it's in the month of July or August right now. We're at a situation where there's going to be 3 full-time officers not available to work for all legitimate reasons. And now we have this resignation on top of it. Finance is not met. This normally would go to finance. I would ask that the select board, understanding the totality of the circumstances here, not wait for finance to approve it, but to approve the posting so the chief can move forward and try to expeditiously identify and poach somebody from another department.
okay.
I don't know if Ian wants to, she wants.
Yeah, Ian, please, Chief. So just so I'm understanding, this is due to a resignation, it's effective already June 1st, is that right?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Yes.
July, oh, is this?
Letters of June.
So it was the newest officer.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
The current shift isn't amenable to
Really?
her current situation. So
That's unfortunate.
my hope is to try to fast track this and get somebody in. The union approved a range commensurate to their experience. So perhaps then I'll get some likely candidates.
Right.
I'm hoping. I know that through the first year of certification for the officers that went through the Bridge Academy is of July 1st. So there are going to be a lot of part-time officers that now will become certified police officers that I'm hoping will be looking for jobs. That is a one plus. But if we have that range, then perhaps we can get somebody with some experience. That's my goal.
Okay.
And the sooner the better, because as of July 1st, between military leave, medical leave, and family leave, 3 full-time officers will be gone for a period of time.
Leaving you with how many?
5.
Okay.
6. 6 with this vacant position.
With the vacant, yeah.
So it's gonna.
That's a huge dent.
It's a huge dent. It's completely out of our control. But it's a storm. We'll weather it. We'll get through it. But that one position
Yeah.
If I can get it fast-tracked
Yeah.
and perhaps get somebody that's qualified with experience, it'll be less field training and perhaps maybe by mid-July or even July 1st, that person could be hired and working.
And I'm assuming that you tried to renegotiate, shifts and so forth for this person, and nothing was working.
It's all by seniority, and
Yeah.
two of the officers that are leaving, well, I should say, are going on leave, one a military, one partially family medical, they're both midnight officers. So
Yeah.
seniority prevails.
Yeah.
And that person, it just, and it's only because of her current situation. I don't want to get into particulars, but
Sure.
that's just not amendable.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. Okay.
It is.
I'll make a motion to approve the PRF for full-time police officer.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Next, we have both a emergency 2-week appointment and then followed by a full-time benefited appointment for the same individual. And that is Tyler Crystal of Westfield Highway Department, replacing Roger Ball Jr., mechanic certified, step 3, $23.64. Of course, the 2-week emergency appointment, it's already happened, and then followed by a permanent appointment.
Well,
Signed off by department head, town accountant, and the chair, and just, it's not that it's unusual, but, perhaps the, I know when speaking with the department head, he worked with the town administrator on this. There's rationality why this isn't starting on step 1 that the board may want to hear.
starting at a step 3, is that
Well,
right?
it's a step 3, but I don't think he's starting at the bottom of the pay scale, correct?
That is correct because of his experience in the same position in another town. And he is a certified mechanic.
So this,
And it's the only way we're going to get someone and actually get them to start here is we're finding out that the starting pay was still a little low, so
This
just
is
give us
for
a
how long?
A long time, over
a good year,
I was gonna
yeah,
say
over a year, yeah.
So that's great.
So the salary amount is right there, right?
Yes.
The 2364. Okay.
I'll make
Okay.
a motion to approve the emergency and ongoing appointment of Tyler Crystal to mechanic.
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
So let me just ask the question, since this is the certified mechanic, we talked about this, we talked about the budget, the need for, a larger amount of money in the budget to send the vehicles out for repair since we didn't have a mechanic in-house. And now that we do, are there any implications there on the budget?
I'm afraid I don't follow the question.
Because we put in more money.
Put in more money for vehicle maintenance to pay for
To outsource it.
maintenance
Outsource it.
services, because we didn't have a mechanic. Now that we will have a mechanic, are we making any budget adjustment?
I would say no. You're still down 2 positions. This person's probably going to spend more time out in the vehicles at this point in time than repairing.
I thought you were going to say $12,000.
No, I'm not going to say 12,000.
Well, it's maybe something to keep an eye on during the year as we move forward in the budget, to see how this shakes out.
I think we should.
Okay.
Next, we have a PCF for a resignation from the highway department for a equipment operator. Jeremy
Laura Shaw.
of Southampton, and the letter is attached. Last day was this past Sunday.
Okay. Do we need a motion?
I move to accept his resignation of
Okay.
Jeremy LaRochelle.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, we have 2 continuations of previously continuations of 12-week temporary assignments within the assessor's office for Mrs. Domino and Mr. Zagros.
Zagorski.
While the assessor's office continues to attempt to fill the.
I just want to mention that there was a little bit of a suspension of the search because of the changes within the budget. And so once it's approved at town meeting, I think there'll be another concerted effort to fill the position. So this is another continuation of temporary increase for the admin assistant and for the interim PA. I'll make a motion to approve David Sikorsky and Janine Domina for the PCF to extend for another 12 weeks their current positions.
I'll second that.
Okay, just a question on this, on the one for Janine, I'm seeing this 5/11 through the end of the fiscal 22, is that right? That doesn't seem,
It says 5.
I mean, on David,
Through the end of fiscal year 22.
okay, David's it goes 5/22 to 8/13/22, but the assistant is going to end up at the end of,
Well, I believe at the beginning of 2023, they had requested, I believe, additional hours, so the PCF would change at that point in time.
okay, so this just gets the assistant through the end of the fiscal year, okay. Okay, understood. All right, if no further questions, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. That's on both appointments for David Sikorsky and Janine Domino's PCFs.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, we took all those out of order here, but we have them, so. All right, moving on to new business. I think our first new business, I'll get this here. Our first new business is about the Housing Trust.
Yes.
And I think we'll turn that over to Joy, and if you would just speak up loudly so we can all hear you at this end here.
So we've been meeting with MHP, and just a small working group with some members of the Housing Authority about establishing a housing trust. And I believe the date we scheduled for a public community meeting to present Housing Trust 101 to everyone in the community is June 16th. I will, I have it pulled up here, hold on. June 16th from 6:30 to 8 p.m., which will be virtual. And from there, it's just a working group working with this organization to lead us along, but we're not an official group, and so that's where we really need some direction from the select board, because the select board is the one to really take control of the housing trust and establish it. And so besides the 101 meeting that we're setting up, we're hoping beyond that, and the select board is, the first people to be invited, as well as the finance committee, and other members of the community, but we really need to know if the select board wants to move forward and give direction to this group to create either an ad hoc bylaw committee, or some kind of direction or charge for the community to move forward in creating a housing trust bylaw that we can put on hopefully a special town meeting warrant. So I don't know if the select board wants to think about it and go to the Housing Trust 101 meeting, or if it's something that they would like to have a charge presented to them, or is it something that, the board wants to discuss, before or after the meeting. I'm just trying to get a sense.
Good question. Just clarification on the date, 15 or 16?
The 16th.
16th.
It's a Thursday.
Thursday.
From
6:30
6:30
to 8.
To 8,
Okay.
yes.
And that'll be a Zoom meeting?
Yes.
All right. Any thoughts on that?
Is the meeting going to be taped in the event that you can't make the meeting and watch it?
I believe so. We're waiting. Yeah, I think we're trying to get the town to
If it's on
do the
Zoom,
Zoom.
we'll
Yeah,
be
it's
sure
going to be
it's taped
Zoom.
so
Yeah,
that
it's
we
going to
can
be taped.
Be there. So the housing trust bylaw, okay, that would have to be, so it's got to be a separate bylaw from what you're understanding so far?
Yes, it has to be a separate bylaw. There is a state statute that the town can adopt, but most towns do make their own bylaw. Just take that and mold that into what they would like to see in their town.
Okay.
Very similar to the wetlands bylaw scenario. Except for you had Conservation Commission
Right.
being able to head that because that is their charge, is the state wetlands bylaw versus Housing Authority is not.
Right.
They're really set up to manage affordable housing in town, but we don't really have affordable housing in town, and so hence why we really need a housing trust, and that's really about garnering funds to create affordable housing.
Okay. I'm a little hesitant to have yet another ad hoc committee going, honestly. It feels like we've got too many, but I don't know.
It's important for interested people to participate in
Yeah.
this Housing Trust 101, and then from there,
See what we need.
we can see what pieces we need to bring together and like, you know,
Absolutely.
Who might fit the role.
responsibility of
Yeah, I don't-
drafting the
yeah.
bylaw and doing some research and so forth.
And I'm not saying that we need completely new people or anything.
Yeah.
It's just that this group that's working with the organization, there's no specific charge from the town, that, you know, and so we're kind of just working with them, and they're like, okay, where's the direction from the select board? So just needing some kind of written direction from the select
Well,
board.
I mean, based on what we've done before with these other ad hoc committees, I mean, we've basically tried to draft a charge and then bring it for the select board for discussion. So I think that's probably easier in some ways for the Housing Authority to try and draft something.
Yes, that's
for our
something I
consideration.
definitely
I think that would
discussed.
be helpful, and then tie that with whatever is presented at the public hearing on June 16th.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think we'd have a better sense of what it's going to entail and what we might need to do to pull all the pieces together.
Okay.
I mean, that would be my sense right now.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
Any other
I can,
thoughts?
yeah, I can talk to Housing Authority and we can take that on, bringing something to maybe the next
Okay.
select board meeting or after the public hearing.
Yeah. And would this offhand, would these other, like a housing trust, so the housing trust bylaw would be like a general, would be part of a general bylaw?
Yes, it's part of the general bylaws.
Okay, so not a planning board type bylaw,
It's not a zoning.
not a zoning bylaw? Okay, got it.
It's a trust.
Yeah.
So it's not pertaining to all town land. It's pertaining specifically to monies and what they should be used for.
Okay, gotcha. All right, okay. Any other thoughts on that? Does that make sense to people? If we just sort of wait and see what happens on the 16th and pull it together after that?
Okay, yep,
Okay,
thank you. I
great.
just want to make
Thanks.
sure it was on the agenda and to.
No, very good. No, I'm glad to hear something's
For the
moving
future.
forward on that. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
great that you all have been making progress on that.
I think it's great, it's a lot of progress, I mean, comparatively speaking. This has been on,
Yeah.
I think, on everybody's radar screen for some time, and these are the really first concrete positive steps. So that's great work on the
Yeah.
group's part.
It's very exciting.
Thank you.
Yep, good, okay.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, ARPA applications. So we've had a couple of explanations tonight. I think, obviously, we have the town meeting coming up on the 7th, so that's going to take up our time there. So I think our next meeting time would be on the 21st, and I would say that that would be when we would pick up any remaining ARPA applications that have come in. We had set a first deadline, or a deadline for the first round, I believe, of June 1st. So there may be a couple more coming in to us within the next few days. But we went through, for those who may not have seen us last week, we were not live last week because there was a conflict with a competing meeting in the TV room here. So we did meet upstairs, and it's recorded, and it is on Easthampton Media for you to watch. And we did sit down and go through a number of the ARPA applications, and that will, we're just tidying up some of the discussion so that it's clear to people what we've been doing. But let me just refresh my brain. We have, I believe, at the time, we have a total of 21 applications, I believe, and we went through almost all of them. And so we will pick up the ones that we didn't finish, and then any others that have come in since then. And we did make a lot of headway and have approved a good share of what we looked at this last week.
Do we have a remaining number? I forgot what that
Oh,
was.
remaining number, I don't think I have it with me. Let me see if I have it on my phone here, hold on.
Dollar amount?
A dollar amount. We were working off of the about 899,000 as our first round allocation, with the expectation that new money, the second half, Ed Wright, will be coming in probably July, August, more or less, the second tranche of our ARPA allocation. I don't.
Roughly 780.
Yeah, I was going to say 750, something like that is roughly where we, so I'd say, I don't know, 100 and, I don't know, maybe 150 at most.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I don't have that figure with me. So that's where we'll be looking at, okay? And there will be letters going out to the applicants notifying them of the decision by the Select Board to award their request, their project request, and put in some of the stipulations that they need to abide by in terms of progress reports and final reports, and how to handle their receipts, et cetera. John?
I just wonder, a question to the chair, to the town administrator.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you know whether or not the video has actually been picked up by Easthampton?
Yes, it's posted, it's out, yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't go look at that. but
Oh,
I'm
sure.
wondering if they can, if they're not already doing it, maybe they are, get it in the loop on the local television channel between now and the election.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Just broadcasting it as opposed
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
That would be good, yeah. Yeah, it definitely is on the town website under the YouTube videos, yep. Yeah, they came in, because they realized we weren't recording live, they came and picked up the card quickly and
Yeah, I just think if you
Process
get on
that.
TV for some folks that don't
Right.
go out to the website.
correct.
Watch it
Yep.
now.
So we made quite a few decisions. We ended up with our balanced budget. That was a huge effort that we managed to do.
I think that was our best meeting.
I think that was one of our very best meetings, I think.
And I think it's moved around.
We got a lot done.
We got a lot done. I mean, if somehow we can kind of square off the edges here and move this in,
yeah.
I think it's just more conducive for conversation, frankly.
I think so, too.
We know we can hear each other better, we can look at each other and, sort of,
thing is the camera can pick you up,
yeah,
regardless of where you are in the room.
yeah.
So I don't think it's a matter of that. It's just that it's so fixed,
Yeah.
it's so stationary.
Yeah,
Well,
it's difficult.
We'll have to see how far these microphone cords stretch here a little bit. But I think it was definitely a very productive meeting, I think. And, I think we had about, 4 hours of it, but it was a lengthy meeting to go through. But we do have a budget to present for town meeting, and we have some good decisions, I think, on the ARPA funding and so forth. So
What if there's a way that that doesn't happen again? Because the meeting ended up being canceled, right?
yeah, well, I guess, it might have been on Zoom. They changed it to Zoom, I think, and it wasn't notified. Yeah, I think it got
But
changed to Zoom, and it.
Can we have the chairs notify you, Ed, or something? So,
Well, it remained posted, I think the confusion was that it remained posted on mytown.gov as a
regular
meeting here.
yeah.
So
I wonder if that,
it didn't get updated, I guess, when they
let all
made
the chairs know to
Yeah.
let us know if that happens.
When they
'cause
made the change. I
It
think,
would have been a great meeting to have gone out live.
Right, it's unfortunate that that was not live, so we would like to encourage everybody who does tune into 191, and those who don't. It's worth taking a look at the last meeting. So, all right. Town meeting warrant, is that where we are, Ed?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I will turn it over to you. We have a draft warrant in front of us here.
Okay, you have the version that should be the final draft and hopefully the final for signing in front of you in your packets.
Yeah, I already made notes on my
Okay.
electronic version. A lot of versions that come
I
out.
know, yeah, just check the date on it, so then you
Yep.
got May 24th date, okay?
So Article 1 is amendments to Article 7, Section 2 of the General Government General Bylaw.
Would you like us to vote on each one of these, or the whole package, or nothing?
I mean,
You're just going to read them all?
I'm not going to read
No.
the whole thing. I'll read the articles and their titles, and if anybody's got,
Okay.
any comments
Okay.
or
Yeah.
edits that
Could you also mention who you anticipate would address them at the town meeting?
I haven't really thought about.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, well,
But I can say probably safely for the first 7, there'll be someone from the bylaw review.
Okay.
Okay. Good guess.
You got a couple someone.
Okay, go ahead, Ed, yeah.
Article 2 is an amendment to Article 24, fees to the town treasury general bylaws. With a proposed change. Article 3 is delete Article 27, solid waste and landfill general bylaws in its entirety. We no longer have a landfill. Article 4, delete Article 28, commercial ID stickers, landfill general bylaws in its entirety. Again, we no longer have the landfill, it's been capped.
Commercial needs another M.
Yep, typo, commercial.
Article 5 is amendment to Article 15, soliciting prohibited general bylaws.
I have a couple questions about this. Maybe, just want a clarification. So, under Section 4 exemptions, under B, just need to ask Francine or Chris. It says, "This article shall not apply to any officers, officials, agents, or employees of the town." So it's employees of the town of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, right? So that's all one thing. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts is not a separate category, correct?
I think it probably should be.
Sounds like it should be.
Agents or employees of the town, I think it's supposed to be, have another comma there perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
Or employees of the town of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the employees of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are not exempt. It's employees of the town of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, correct? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Agents or employees of the town.
I'm
with that.
thinking it, I would have to check it out, I'm sorry about that. The town, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as an entity of itself, or any political subdivision thereof.
You have to go back and look at, see what the legal folks said on that. I don't recall offhand.
What is your question again?
I just wanted to clarify whether we're talking about employees of the town and of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are two separate entities, or if it's one entity being the employees of the town of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
I would read it as two separate entities.
Yeah,
I thought, I mean,
because
Why would employees of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts be exempt from soliciting?
I'm not sure.
yeah, I was just going to census.
Yeah? Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I do have another question. Under application for permit, section 5A, I just wanted to be clear about the fees, because it almost reads as if there's two separate fees. Are there two separate fees for the permit? One being for the actual permit and one being for
The badge, I
the
believe.
badge? Is that right?
Yeah.
The permit is one thing.
So this one is for the scheduled fee, so that's for the actual permit, because that's not identified usually, the amount. It's just based on the scheduled fee, so that's for the actual permit.
Right.
And then further on, it says, another section, it says about a different fee. It says, there's another section that talks about the fee, and when they were talking about the,
Under C, maybe 5C?
yeah, it says at a rate to cover the expenses of the permitting, including photo, lanyards, and other verification activities associated with the issuance of this permit. So there are two separate fees, and the application fee would be separate from the permit fee?
Well, the application fee is one, and this is the processing of any background check and identification badge that would be issued to.
Okay.
Yeah, so
to
there are
the
two fees.
solicitor.
There are two fees, yeah.
Okay.
So there is a permit fee, but then,
And then there's the
yeah,
cost.
the cost of doing the, issuing the badge and doing all the background check.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I guess, so the application fee is determined by the select board for this charge as opposed to like the police department? And then the appeal is handled by the select board and not the police department? That's just a question I had. The select board is, for example, the appeal process says any person or organization who is denied registration or whose registration has been revoked or suspended may appeal by filing a written notice of appeal with the select board. And the select board's also involved in setting the fee for the application. I'm just kind of surprised by that, if this is under the jurisdiction of the police department.
Well, it's actually approved by the town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a schedule of fees, it's just,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the permit fee is by the town meeting, but this makes it sound like the application fee is determined by the select board. I'm just surprised by that, based on a recommendation from the chief of police. I didn't realize that we set fees.
Well, I don't think it's really an application fee, it's really a fee to cover the costs of the direct, the way I read this, expenses of permitting, including photo, lanyards, and other verification activities.
Right, I just don't know that we've ever set fees. And I just wonder why that wouldn't be from the police.
They've never issued these kinds of permits with this kind of documentation. So that's why this is all new. But that may have to change from time to time depending upon, the expense to the police department. So yes, we're going to get the information from the police department in order to set the fees.
I just think it's unusual that that's not what I consider a function of the select board, to set fees for an application to the police. But if the attorney didn't have anything to say about
Nothing
it,
to say, I mean, I don't recall they had anything to say about that. We can go back and do a quick double check on it, but.
There is a period missing at the end of section 4, paragraph D, after,
Where are you?
Section 4D,
yeah, section 4D.
what about?
At the end of the paragraph, there needs to be a period.
A period, okay. Yeah.
And also, I have just a general question. So I see that there's exceptions. Religious, charitable, or political entity, group, organization, or cause, and also any youth organization or group. Later on, there's restrictions and limitations on soliciting and canvassing. I just want to be clear, for properties that do have no trespassing or no soliciting, are we saying it's kind of contradictory, if that makes sense? Because we have the charitable, religious, or political groups, entities, and all these other exceptions do not have to abide by this bylaw. But any property without a residential, commercial, no trespassing, no soliciting sign.
I mean, I think there are some that are exempt by law that we can.
By statute that we can't, okay, so that's by statute,
We
okay.
can't-
I just want to make sure.
We can't prohibit them from soliciting.
Okay.
All right? But I think anybody, yes, that has a no trespassing, no soliciting sign, definitely, that nobody should be
Okay,
entering onto their property.
I wasn't sure that, I didn't know that was by statute. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
Is our lawyer going to be on speed dial for this meeting? I mean, these are very good questions.
Yeah. We can double check on the application fee if you want to. I mean, if we can check on it tomorrow with the lawyer. I don't recall them making any comments on that at all, and they went through this at least twice.
Yep.
Okay. So, Rini, you're saying that you don't think that the select board normally sets the fees? I think, or an application fee, we have penalties, we have fines, right? But we don't have application fees?
Yeah, I don't remember ever doing that, really. I was just clarifying, that's all.
Okay.
Who sets the fees, like raffle permit fees and those kinds of things?
Well, the park commission does the park, and
No, look, I mean, the raffles done right here through town hall.
what raffle?
Raffle tickets,
Raffle
permits?
license to
Permit.
you have to have a license to do
$15.
raffles.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, there's a list posted
Who does?
somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I tell you.
I believe the raffle is actually by statute.
It could be, I don't know. But there's, I don't know where they're, honestly, where it's listed there. But we can clarify it, but at this point in time, I would just say that the legal folks have gone through this twice and did not come up with anything that was out of the ordinary for them. So Ed, maybe we could just call them in the morning and ask if there's a question about it. We're actually meeting, Bylaws Committee's meeting tomorrow?
Tomorrow. And
Excellent.
honestly, if they could ask the same person who did the most recent reviews, he seemed to be very thorough. As opposed to, I think, maybe some prior reviews we got. He could pick up on any inconsistencies like this or verify, the questions that are being posed to us there.
Yeah,
We need those answers.
okay. So we'll,
Again, I was just trying to clarify, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to run up a bill.
yeah, no. Okay, continue, Ed. Next one. Number 6, I think. Article 6.
Article 6 would be to amend to Article 23, numbering of buildings, general bylaws. Article 7 would be accepting new Article 49, the naming of public buildings, structures, bridges, and public lands, general bylaws.
I just have a question about that also. Under 4 criteria, the first one's, well, it says A, applicable criteria for naming, renaming considerations shall include but not limited to, and the first one says nominees' residence in Southampton. So also it says that the person, that this naming does not apply to, it's only after someone has passed away. So the nominee's residence in Southampton, does that mean at some point in their life?
Yes.
Had to have been a,
Residents in Southampton.
yeah, had to have been a citizen or a resident of Southampton.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
It might be better to say past residents in Southampton, just because it's,
Could be still here in past.
because the other one says nobody, it shall not be named for any living person or commercial enterprise, so past residents probably makes more sense, I think.
You want past in between nominee and residence?
I think so.
Yes, nominees past residents.
And that means that at one time in their life, not necessarily at the time that they die, but at some point in their life, they lived in
Right.
Southampton.
I mean, they were here long enough to contribute to the town with their, whatever service they were involved in, right?
Okay, so that would exclude, for example, if there was a suggestion that it be named for some representative or senator that represented the district but never lived in town, that person would be excluded.
In this particular case, that's
Okay.
how I would interpret that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, just want to make sure. Okay, that's it, thanks.
Okay.
Oh, actually, one other thing.
So Ed, you caught that one word? You added the word past in there, that first bullet?
I did.
Nominees past
Of course, I don't
residents.
have to say that someone that lived here for a week is now eligible.
No, because other things will
They have to
take
provide some
it, other criteria are equally important, okay? Significant contribution to the town, extraordinary service to the town. One would think if you've lived here for a week, you aren't that energetic yet, but yeah, I think that's not a big problem. Another question, Rita?
Just a clarification. Under the next C, where you have the bullets, the third bullet says, "No such room, area, or sub-area shall bear the name of a commercial enterprise." So I know this is, the park is under the jurisdiction of the Park Commission, but there is increasing use of commercial enterprises purchasing fields or billboards or some kind of a thing. So would that preclude them from doing that, from the way it's put there? No such room, area, or sub-area shall bear the name of a commercial enterprise. So on a field, would that mean that that would not be able to be advertised? Because right now, there's currently quite a bit of advertising.
I think this is really talking about naming
Okay,
that facility,
Yeah,
okay,
not in the name of a commercial enterprise. I see what you're saying. They couldn't put up a sign, and that's not what this means.
Yeah.
It means that the facility couldn't be
right,
in their name.
yeah. So naming of the thing itself, not that there's a billboard or something advertising it, I don't think. I don't think it's meaning that. at
okay,
all.
okay.
Yeah, Ed?
Okay, theoretically, probably going to be building a new public safety complex and a new senior center. Let's see if I can do this. Supermarket M donates $50,000 to the new senior center to name the hall or a room after them. Are they exempt from being able to do that?
They're not
I
exempt.
think they are.
They're not exempt from giving the contribution, but this says that it would be.
Well, look at C in its entirety, though. C, with the first bullet point, it's talking about sub-areas, right? Designation of individual rooms, areas, or sub-areas within a public building or structure. So such areas, on that first bullet, constitute less than 25% of the public building structure.
Yes.
So, I mean, the requirements shall not apply provided that the naming, renaming, or designation is consistent with the following. So such rooms constitute
Right.
less than 25% of the entire building.
I think that's the key point there, because just having gone to these other senior centers, for example, Hadley, there's a van that was purchased by the Subaru dealer. There was, every senior center bank has donated, and there's either a name, a room named, or, I mean, one of the senior centers that we visited, actually, on the front of the building says, I don't remember which senior center, and then it says right underneath it, the name of the bank. So I don't know, that would not be possible under this scenario. But I think 25% is, I think, the key point here, the key distinction.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on those? If not,
And
okay.
it does say that a public hearing is held before that designation is made.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on. Budget and financial issues, items.
Article 8 is transferred from free cash to the capital stabilization fund in the amount of $139,895.20. Article 9 is a transfer from free cash to the operating stabilization fund in the amount of $101,412.60. And Article 10 is a transfer from free cash to the OPEB fund in the amount of $33,804.20. Article 11 is...
Yeah, sorry.
I don't have my notes, but on Article 8, the 139, that includes the additional money that we moved in there.
Yes, sir, it does. And hopefully I didn't ask right. I went back and forth on that a couple of times. Article 11 is unpaid bills from previous fiscal years. There's, let's see, I think there's 12 of them. Article 12 is 5-year contract approval for leases for copying machines for police station and town hall. Without town meeting approval, we would only be able to do that on our own without that approval for a 3-year period rather than a 5-year period. Article 13 is the annual operating budget for fiscal year 2023. Raise and appropriate $19,098,142.31 as identified in the town's annual operating budget from taxation, $17,500 from WPAT loan, and $100,000 from ambulance fees as attached for fiscal year 2023. Article 14 is for the Transfer Station Enterprise Fiscal 2023 budget. Article 15 is for the Water Enterprise Fiscal 2023 budget. Article 16 is a transfer from free cash for the highway dump truck debt payment in a total amount of $47,930, which is $47,000 for principal and $930 for interest for the fiscal year 23 debt payment.
Can I just have a question about 16? Is there any reason why this should be prior to the other budget items? The operating budget in particular? Or is that going to end up being funded another way in the event that it doesn't pass?
I'm sorry, I don't follow you. It's after the operating budget?
Right, but we moved the money out of the operating budget and put it in free cash, and I'm just wondering what the backup plan is, or if we need to think, maybe we don't have to worry about it. Maybe we'd come back at a special town meeting under something else, but I just feel like
That's what we'd have to do.
we'd have to do that. Okay.
Okay.
We wouldn't amend the budget on the floor.
No,
Okay.
at least that would not be my recommendation.
Okay.
Article 17 is transfer from free cash to the Mass Trails grant match for the Greenway project, specifically for design. It's for $15,000.
Just in the table of contents on that one, Article 17 is transfer has got a typo on the article number, on the table of contents.
More and more, my brain is working faster than my fingers.
Okay. All right. Okay, Article 18, I think we are.
Article 18 is funding for the highway loader, which is a debt exclusion. I did exchange emails with bond counsel, and he did recommend that we put in the $231,000 amount rather than the lesser amount of what the net dollar amount would be, less the trade-in, but to mention the trade-in in the actual summary motion.
Okay.
Article 19 is a transfer for Norris School masonry repairs of $7,500 from the Capital Stabilization Fund. Article 20 is a transfer replacement heating system for the Highway Department office and garage in the amount of $56,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund. Article 21 is a transfer for Norris School roof repairs in the amount of $7,400 from the Capital Stabilization Fund. Excuse me. Article 22 is a transfer for Center Street Cemetery water line replacement in the amount of $13,200 from the Capital Stabilization Fund. Article 23 is a transfer for brush fire and rescue UTV and trailer in the amount of $18,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund. Article 24 would be a transfer for PEG capital funds for Easthampton Media in the amount of $50,000 from that PEG capital fund, and we did receive a check from Spectrum in the amount of $50,000. Article 25 is home rule legislation for additional package store license, an additional package store license. Article 26 is treasurer collector demand fee of $25. Article 27 is an article to rescind the previous town meeting vote for debt exclusion and design for Greenway project, which was Article 25 on the June 12th, 2021 annual town meeting warrant.
I have a question on that one.
Yep.
And mind you, it's nothing to do with the wording, but it's placement of it. I almost wonder if rescinding the debt, that would go over better if we did that before we approved all that debt.
All the debt? I believe there's one other article on debt.
Right, but we've already, now, at this point, we've already voted on it.
Yeah.
Right, so if we first said, we don't need this anymore, take this back, and then we asked for the debt override on the truck. Just presentation purposes only.
I can do almost anything.
That makes sense.
I think it's a good idea.
People see that there is money that was committed that's no longer
Yeah.
obligated for that purpose, or that might
Okay.
make them feel a little.
So that would move in between 17 and 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good idea, John, thanks.
Every now and then I have them.
Just remember that the formatting to this is my biggest headache.
Well-
When you make changes like this, just remember you're going to be staying here a little later tonight while I reprint it previously.
I let the decimal tab go.
Well, or we can make arrangements to come sign it tomorrow, or is it too late? We got to sign it tonight?
Well, technically, it's much easier to sign it tonight than everybody trying to get it here tomorrow. However, you would now ask a question that might change one of the articles, and that being, does the select board set fees or not? Which they can do, but is it appropriate in this particular case? Article 28 is a vote to establish a municipal light plant. This is one of two voting requirements, which is required if the town would be interested in supplying Southampton residents with its own broadband internet product. Does not bind the town to anything, or the residents to anything, or any funding, but it is a required, one of the two required votes to be able to move forward and go through that process. Article 29 is reauthorization of Board of Health Septic Betterment Program. Article 30 is the different revolving funds and setting their spending limits, and I will remind you that Conservation Forestry has asked to have theirs spending limit increased from $10,000 to $20,000, and the other one is the Fire Department for Bluff Services requested that was approved at $5,000, and they're asking to increase it to a $20,000 spending limit. Community Preservation Projects, Article 31 is a report of the Community Preservation Committee, which sets aside their administrative expenses and sets aside at least 10% of the revenues into the Historic Reserve, Community Housing Reserve, and the Open Space Reserve. Article 32 is CPC funding for land purchase for a housing authority, which is $125,000 for a parcel of 1.32 acres on College Highway, and that is to come from the community housing account. This will be the first time we've used the community housing account since I've been here, and probably for a while before that, too. It might be the first time ever. Article 33 is CPC funding for land purchase for aquifer protection. It is for $443,700 comes from the CPA undesignated account. It's for 76 acres of land on Pomeroy Meadow Road. We also have put in for a grant for this, but the article, both by the Community Preservation Committee and the article is written in such a way that if we get the grant, if the CPC funds will be reimbursed. If we don't get the grant, CPC is still authorized the $443,700 to be utilized to purchase that land and protect the aquifer.
Good. Just one question, Ed, on the reserves, on the previous page there, that part that has the Pomeroy Meadow land purchase in parentheses, that belongs with that, or that's not from our previous Pomeroy Meadow land purchase, is it? I don't know what it means. Is only a memo item?
Basically what it means is we approved a 10-year debt to purchase
Not this Pomeroy Meadow.
Not this Pomeroy Meadow land, but I think it's about 5 acres, which is on the right.
Closer to the school. Closer to the school. Yeah.
So that debt payment is enough that it actually qualifies for that 10% allocation
I see.
that's required into that open space account. So
Okay.
that's why it's noted that way.
Okay. Thank you.
But actually, good point, because they're so close together. I'm sure that someone will have to clarify that at the town meeting, that they are two different sites.
Yeah.
One we already
Yeah.
have acquired, and the other we are in the process of.
I think at one point they were distinguishing them by Upper Pomeroy Meadow Road and Lower Pomeroy Meadow, so I don't know if that helps, but it might. Okay, so we have, no matter, even if we do move one around, we still have, let me see, we have 33 articles in total.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and I would just add that I asked Ed to remove the one on the Charter Commission after doing a little bit more research.
Right.
I need to share more documents with the board before the board can make a decision on that.
It sounds a little more complicated than it might be. Okay, yes, Robert, please.
Robert Floyd, the College Highway, speaking as town moderator. The town moderator information session will be Thursday in this room, 7 o'clock, and maybe one of us can volunteer to read Article 5, 6, and 7. Oh, thanks.
I'm happy to help out.
Teamwork. I do have a question on Article 27. We're rescinding the previous town meeting vote for the debt exclusion, and this will be determined raised by borrowing or otherwise. How are we going to justify taking away one funding source? Do we have another funding? Has that been established officially?
Approved. This past annual town meeting, because of the change in the state law where we can now use CPC funds to acquire or purchase the right-of-way for the Greenway. At that town meeting, there was an article to that effect using CPC funds, which was approved.
Right.
So now that that has been approved, and the theory being all along that rather than put additional debt on our residents and businesses, that we use the CPC funds. So rather than having them on the same town meeting, just in case the other one didn't pass or whatever, this is a follow-up to that to make sure that we rescind that original debt exclusion. The taxpayers know it, and we can actually take it off our DOR books.
Understand. My concern is the appropriation shall be raised by borrowing, and implying a future action.
It's the exact wording from the original article.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'd have to explain it probably more in the summary motion or somewhere in the summary.
I just felt it was appropriate to put the actual
Yeah.
That's my concern. Okay.
Yeah.
in there.
Good point, though. Yeah.
Cheers.
Okay, thanks.
So we're going to move Article 27?
Yeah, we're going to move Article 27 up a little bit further. Yeah.
Between 16 or between 15 and 16?
No, I think
17 and 18.
17 and 18.
So it'll actually become,
Okay.
it'll actually become Article 18.
Become 18.
Article 18 will become
Yeah.
18 and so forth.
And everything will just renumber on
And I
down.
have to read.
So you might need tomorrow morning, all this. Don't rush it tonight, Ed. Tomorrow morning.
I learned today that I'm not going to wait till tomorrow morning.
Well, but once we do formatting
I'm going to
things,
finish the contents this morning.
I know.
Heck was blowing up around here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a question on Article 29. Should we, in that body about the septic betterment, because that's the only section that's going to get read, right? Should we put in the limit of $200,000? It just says a sum of money.
Yeah.
Should we say the sum of $200,000? Which I believe is what they requested.
I would have to go back and take a look at the summary and the actual motion.
Just in general,
Yeah.
they were blank checks.
I mean, we've been, very specific in terms of dollar amounts everywhere else. It seems kind of open-ended not to have
Right.
that.
I mean, unless there's a specific reason to leave out, I guess. It just jumps out at me when there's not there.
Right, so it's not a fill in the blank.
Yeah.
People might assume.
Or it could be a not to exceed 200,000 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Up to
I mean, I don't know.
200,000, yep.
Well, yeah, I think it comes out in 200,000 increments. And then we awarded, well,
No, it was in
up to
50s.
200,000, it's $50,000 increments.
Right.
In theory, there could be 4 drawdowns.
Right.
We never use the term up to,
No.
Not to exceed, the maximum of.
none of those. It's according to the BOR, it's a dollar amount.
All right.
Okay.
So could we add 200,000?
Let me go take a look and see how the summary of the motion is written.
Yeah.
200,000's in the motion, I'm fine.
All right. Francine, did you have a question too?
Pardon?
Did you have a question also?
No, yeah, I want to have the pages numbered. There's an index here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that would help people follow through. And then there are a couple typos here, I don't want to bring them up. But I will tell Ed.
Where?
On Article 33, protection,
Yeah.
B's. There's another one with the dollar amount. Somewhere in here. I'll go back and look for it and tell you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's article, section,
Which one?
if it had a page number, okay, article,
It's one of the bylaws?
I think it's, yeah, it's one of the bylaws. It's the solicitor candidacy.
Okay, what section? That-
It's section 13, which is 2 pages back. 300 period, there's a period that needs to be taken out. In the first paragraph,
Yeah, up to
third line
$300.
down may result in fines
Yeah.
up to 300 period, okay? That's all.
Okay. I'd worry more that the page numbers are syncing with the actual pages, since we don't have the page numbers on the pages themselves, so that would be a question too when he comes back. Okay. And do we generally feel that we want to, well, if we have to sign this tonight, we won't have time to make any clarification. We can clarify it later on. I don't know, what do you think, Rini, about your question on the application fee on that one? I mean, I don't really want to hold this back to get an answer, but if he wants to finish this all tonight rather than tomorrow morning, we will be having a bylaw meeting in the morning, and we can have the lawyers on call.
I mean, I would ask the other board members how they felt about it. I'm just not accustomed to setting fees for applications to the police department.
Well, I think some of these were taken language from other towns, for one, and like I say, the legal counsel had looked at this at least twice and did not come up with anything that we shouldn't be doing here. So, in fact, they made several other changes where they wanted more definitions in there. Under B, capital B, they put in all sorts of definitions that we had not had before.
Can it be worded where it wasn't exactly specific? a fee will be charged, for the blah, 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 because it's really just to cover the expense of the
Yeah.
lanyard and
We could maybe just
photo
take out application and say a fee to be periodically assessed.
I mean, it really should be if the police, not, I think, us, setting fees for other departments.
Consolidate the application fee along and the fee for, the expense of doing the background check and all of that.
That's going to be,
That's a nightmare. Okay.
that's going to mean a major rewrite. You may as well take it right off right now.
No.
If we can scratch out a word
Okay.
for C, 5C, take out application, just say
What
a
do you think,
fee.
Fran? What do you think about,
A fee.
Just say a fee, not application.
Honestly, I think it's fine, to be honest.
it's not, I just don't think it's our jurisdiction to be setting fees for the department that,
A fee to be periodically assessed based on recommendations. Forget
police
about,
department, yeah, that
Did
sounds
the
great.
police department have an opinion on it?
yes, they've commented on this 5 times.
Yeah, so if they already had, if they've already
I mean,
reviewed it and they didn't say anything about it,
No,
then.
but, again, people look at different things and interpret it
It's a
differently.
very
so-
lengthy bylaw, let me
It
just
is.
tell you
Yes, and
that.
it's had
very-
a public information meeting, it's had, police was here answering questions for it. He was one of the ones that answered questions for us, so.
What other department do we set fees for?
I'm not sure of any without researching them.
None, none.
Don't know.
None, no other time
How
have I
about,
set fees.
let's make a suggestion.
No, we set the liquor license fee and the package store fees. We set all those fees here. I mean, I do think there are some that come to us.
Really?
I don't think we've ever really adjusted them.
No, I don't think we have.
Yeah, we probably haven't in a long time. Okay, how about a fee to be periodically assessed based on recommendations from the chief of police shall be set at a rate to cover the expenses, okay?
Based on recommendation.
Yeah.
And that's really supposed to be an indirect fee. What covers the cost? Like, I'm assuming this lanyard thing is that new
Right.
badge equipment thing that we just bought.
Could be.
Yeah.
Although,
And then there's
But it's photos, but it's also background checks.
Or checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if they fingerprint or whatever.
yeah, I don't know if they do, but they do at least a cursory Corey check or
My
something.
preference would be to change it to have it be a little bit more generic and so that we can sign it tonight, frankly.
So is what I just read, is that okay?
Yeah, I think it sounds great.
All right, we will have Ed make that change. I'll work with him to get that change. All right, so 5C, we'll just change that to simpler language. Thank you. All right, as usual,
But we're still going to have the lawyer take a look at it.
we don't need to,
All right.
unless we want to pay more legalese. But what we need to do probably is go back and look at the comments that came back from the lawyer on the second time, just to make sure we didn't miss something.
Okay,
That would be one thing, but that, I don't think that would stop this from moving forward.
all right.
All right, all right, so while waiting for Ed, is there anything else? We don't have any departmental transfers, do we? I didn't see any.
I didn't see any in the packet.
I don't think I had any in the package. Yeah, I was going to say, I was just scrolling down here. Let's go up to that, the one-day liquor license. This would be, hold on, licenses and permits. This is for Lynn Coffee, a one-day wine and malt permit for Conant Park for June 5th from noon until 9 o'clock p.m.
She put the fee in here instead of the number of guests, so it's $100 or 100 guests.
I think it's 100 guests because the fee is actually higher. It's an out-of-town resident.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anticipate number of guests is 100.
Yeah, does not, yeah, that was a mistake on their part, I think, yeah. All right. So we're not sure of the number of people, but it looks like all the other paperwork.
I'll make a motion to approve the one-day alcohol
Right.
event for Lynn Coffee on Sunday, June 5th.
Right, it's for a graduation party at Conant Park. Okay. Could I have a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, John.
Is it appropriate on Sunday night to leave that permit open until 10 p.m. at night? It's a Sunday, it's going to 10 p.m.
Going to 9, isn't it? No?
Well, if you look at the permit signed by Mrs. Mack on March 10th, Date and time park will be used Sunday, June 5th, 2022, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m.
But then the license actually says noon to
Yeah.
9.
Okay.
On the actual application, it was 10 and got crossed out to 9, so I think it is 9.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. So with that said, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Francine, you want to do a few warrants while you're at it?
All right, payroll warrant 22-44 for $301,479.57. Payroll deduction warrant 22-44 for $49,850.64. Payroll deduction warrant 22-44A with retirement for $164,835.32. Vendor payable warrant 22-45 for $2,202,751.23. So that includes the Hampshire payment, Hampshire regional payment. Payroll warrant 22-46 for $306,288.71. Payroll deduction warrant 22-46 for $51,311.89. Vendor payable warrant 22-47 for $442,073.49.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any question on the various warrants here? Offhand? Just a note, I think we had talked about it before, and I know I've mentioned it to Ed, but as we get going with on the vendor payable warrants, we already have at least one on here, the 2245, where we've started to actually incur some of our ARPA funds expenses. So at some point in time, we're asking the accounting office to keep a separate tracking of all the ARPA-related expenses, copies of receipts, warrants, et cetera, related to that, so we don't have to go digging through files to find them. So that will be a separate one-off system that they can figure out how they want to manage that, but I think that will be good. Okay, so any other questions on the warrant articles? I mean, on the warrants, I'm sorry, on payroll warrants.
I have one comment. I mean, occasionally they run over to another page where the signature page is separate and apart from the actual details. It would be good, I mean, in addition to the amount of money, because this one happens to be the $2 million one, that the warrant number also appear on that last page, on the signature page. It doesn't.
Most of them they do, but not that one, huh?
That one doesn't, yeah. Well, either that or a couple, depending on how this prints out, but a couple lines of charges from the previous one.
But it's just...
Which article, which warrant number,
We're
sir?
looking at
2245?
22-44A.
44A, yeah. Yeah,
No,
no.
I'm sorry.
Is that the one with the school?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So it would be,
Yeah, unless,
no, it isn't. You see, that's where it gets tough.
the Hampshire Regional School one is the 1,000,003 is on 2245.
One with this, yeah, so it has to be
2245.
Yeah, that's right.
22-45.
Right.
Yep. It's on page 63 of the packet,
Yeah.
the electronic packet.
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, it's certainly preferable to have some level of information along with the signature. I mean, the signature by itself is not really useful.
Yeah, that's a good catch. Actually, every single other page has the warrant number on it.
And there should also be a page number on that one,
Yeah,
just so we know that it's attached to
yeah,
a footer.
Right.
yeah.
It's the only one without a page number, too.
Well, and the report numbers, there's a number under Ellen's name and under Bradley's name on the left-hand side there.
Yeah.
So you can match those up, but, okay. Point. All right, anything else on that? Ed, what did you find out?
It is in the $200,000 is specifically in the motion. I can move it into the actual article too, if you want me to do.
Yeah,
Which piece is read aloud? The paragraph under the article is the motion, so.
The motion.
the motion, and that's what the number is, so it's fine.
However, I also understand that for probably about a week, this is going to be on the website
Without-
the summary and
Yeah.
the motion, so I also understand the side that says, well, can you put it in the article for
Yeah.
just being out there for that information for that period of time, too.
I think it's fine to put it in the article as well. I don't have any problem with that.
Is that?
I'd say let's put it in the article as well, the 200,000 for the septic betterment reauthorization. Okay. And while you were out, Ed, we did one other change. We decided to not deal with our legal folks tomorrow. We made a change on the article for the soliciting canvassing. We just simplified language on soliciting canvassing, which is Article 5.
Yes.
Under that section 5C at the very bottom of the page. So instead of saying an application fee, cross out the word application and just say a fee to be periodically assessed based on recommendations from the chief. So take out determined by the select board.
I
So,
know how to spell determined, I don't know how to spell
Oh.
assessed. You did that on purpose, didn't you?
ASSESSED. So, a fee to, I thought you were going to say periodically.
There were two S's and then one S.
Right. A fee to be periodically assessed based on recommendations from the chief of police or designee shall be set at a rate to cover the expenses. So just those, that'll at least simplify it a little bit, and I
So
think
a
it's
fee to be periodically assessed
based on recommendations from the chief.
based,
We'll be a little silent as to who issues it.
And on B above, we decided,
On, which one, be above?
Article 5, Section B, 4B. And then sections, what did we say, of the town, of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
I think it's fine the way it's written. It's got employees of the town, comma, of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
Okay,
or any
okay.
political subdivision
All
thereof.
right, there we go, all right.
All right. Okay, so with those changes, I think, and did you have another one, Francine? Except for your period, no? Oh, the question we had,
Period of $300.
yeah, we had the question about whether, you said you've got a table of contents here, Ed. Page numbers are there, but they're not on the document itself. So to paginate
There are no page numbers.
the document itself.
Let's see if I can add them.
Yeah, okay, see if they sync together there. Okay, so with all that, do we need to vote on accepting all these articles for the town warrant, I'm assuming?
Yep. I'll make a motion to approve. The total number is, what,
33.
33 articles for the annual town meeting warrant of June 7th, 2022.
Okay.
With the corrections that were made.
Yep, okay. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Not hearing any opposition, this is approved. Thank you. All right. Just lost my papers. Okay, hold on. And so Ed, while you were out, we also approved the Conant Park one-day
Issue.
permit. We just noted that the person wrote down the dollar amount rather than the number of guests on her application, the anticipated number of guests. She wrote $100 rather than the number of people, but that's
Probably 100 people, yeah.
could be, who knows? All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 1st, 2022 minutes.
Okay, you're
I'll
way ahead of
second
me
it.
here. I'm just trying to think where we are, yeah.
I'll second it.
All right. All right. Motion is to approve the minutes of February 20, which one was it, John? Sorry.
February 1st.
February 1st one. Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the February 15th, 2022 minutes.
Okay.
Let me just get to them.
I have a second on that one. Anybody have any comments? Have they noticed anything on that? I think things were pretty detailed. We appreciate getting the level of detail that Kathy's giving us here. I had not picked up anything in particular myself, but...
The only question I had is under appointments and resignations, where it says, this is about the Public Safety Building Committee, it says Janet Brown, Public Safety Building Committee, William Barkham, then it says term to expire. That was just left open-ended, and then there was a discussion afterwards about there only being no positions left.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it okay to leave it the way it is?
There's no dates, yes.
No, there's no dates
There's no
intentionally,
dates
but
on it, yeah.
is that okay, you think?
I mean,
But was that from the agenda?
is that, yeah, what was that
Maybe,
from?
well, I don't think the agenda said that there was,
We didn't act on those.
No.
right, because of what's,
We didn't give them to her.
right, so you're comfortable with the way it's written like that? It just looks like it might be misleading.
Yeah, they can cross it out. Term to expire.
Yeah, I think we should cross off those, yeah.
So for Ed's reference, what page is that?
In the actual packet, it's 91,
That's not up.
but it's page 2 of 4 in the minutes.
Yep,
The second and third bullet
Yeah, the
point
second
there.
page.
February 15th minutes.
So you just remove term to expire, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right from the agenda. I
Yeah.
can put in.
Yeah, I know. But I think that if someone was looking back, I think it would be misleading, or,
Yeah,
So just strike that term to expire, because we never acted on it.
yeah, right.
Correct, because there's no vote there.
yeah.
Do we-
Okay.
Do we have do we have a second?
Oh, second.
All right. All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye. All right, very good. All right, so that's those minutes. And are there any other updates? I just want to take a look, make sure we haven't missed anything. Anything under old business or pending? We got a COVID update from Kate earlier, 52 active cases in town. Anything else on the East Street Bridge that you'd like to mention? We've had some good photos lately, I've seen circulating.
Yeah,
A lot of work has been going on down there.
looks great.
Yeah, it actually starting to look like a break.
It is, it definitely is.
And the phones are ordered for the town hall?
Yeah, they've been ordered for a while.
Nothing new? Nothing new?
Okay. And what else? Any other items anybody says?
It looks like, is there an update on the Clearwater Woodland boundary? It just says update afterwards. I don't remember that being there.
No,
No?
it should just be how it was.
Okay.
Okay. Have we had any contact with them? We need to get that resolved. I do not want to enter the fiscal year with all these pending issues on there that have been hanging around for a long time. We need to kind of close them out somehow. So whatever help we can give you, we'll be glad to, Ed, on that one. That's an old one for sure. That and the charter building. What else is on there?
The East Street update, from the bridge to
Yeah, the tip proposal.
Soapy Circle, whatever.
Yeah. One of the things that, at some point, and this happened, I think, before I got on the board, at Grant Committee the other day, they were asking to know more about the Green Community Grant, because that's coming back up again. We saw something cross our paths on that. And I don't know if we have a copy of the old grant information anywhere.
I probably do.
If you do, just forward it. We just wanted to share it with the Grant Committee so they understand what we've already signed up for, basically.
Yeah, I'll look for it.
Okay, if there's nothing else on the agenda, we have, that I'm hearing, John?
For executive session.
Yeah, before,
The only thing is just to clarify, the select board meeting on June 7th will actually be held at Norris
we'll be at Norris.
Library.
That's right. Right, we'll be meeting there right before the town meeting in the library.
Yep.
Correct. And the annual town meeting is on June 7th at 7 PM. Right, Robert? All right. Okay, I think we've gone through the whole thing, so in that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn the regular meeting, but we will be going into executive session, and let me just read the reasons for that. executive session for purpose of MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, highway superintendent, and for MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. Approval of executive session minutes, January 11, 2022. So with that, we will take a motion to adjourn, and we will not be coming back into public session. Is that correct, Ed? We're not coming back to public
I'll make a
session.
motion to adjourn regular session.
All right.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Groden, aye.
Piper, aye.
Fowles, aye. Okay, we are adjourned at 8:30. Perfect.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.